living life, every day, late at night, not okay. All I want, and I pray, all I need are some better days.
Afternoon, good evening, everybody. This is the Let's Talk Sports Network, and this is the NCAA from the UK.
Off at these fucking clowns who were up top, they deserve an ounce. It's only worth it if you work for it. It's only worth it if you work for it. I won't stop till they hear me now. I won't stop till I wear the crown.
So welcome back, Nadgy. Thanks for coming back in and having a chat about the NCAA. I know we caught up last week in preparation to the big Georgia-Tennessee game. Didn't go quite the way we expected it to, did
it? No, not quite. Not quite the fireworks we were expecting. But what a game, regardless, right? It was kind of very interesting and very eye-opening. Yeah, I mean, it's football, right?
It's kind of vindication almost of how good Georgia are is what came out of it. Everyone was like, "What? Who's the best? Where is it? Who's the?" It was all up and down. But then that was kind of like Georgia are really the number one team, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it was never a question. I said it on that show last week. I think the tested natures of them, the fact that they've been there in big games like that, and I know it was at home, so it's a lot easier, right? But nobody's saying Bama lost not at home, so I don't like using that argument. It's a football game; you should be able to play wherever. But yeah, home field advantage is a thing anyway. The fact that they were in big games, in national championship, in semifinals before, I think it showed. And Stenson Bennett was just unfrazzled by anything that was happening. And the defense came to ball. It's just like, wow.
Shut down those Volunteers.
Absolutely shut down.
It wasn't even close.
No, it was never close, was it? And I know Jalen Hyatt looked like he was a bit of a knock, and he kind of carried on playing not fully healthy, but the Tennessee offense just didn't look like the Tennessee offense at all. I know they chucked it downfield a few times, but it looked like desperation more than what they usually do, which is methodically run the ball and then hit you on a big one when you don't expect it.
Yeah, it's just kind of all they had was just panic mode almost, wasn't it?
Yeah, they were absolutely panic mode, and Haddon Hooker just, I think, really took a step back into the Heisman conversation because he couldn't play. I mean, his offensive line didn't really play very well, but you'd expect a Heisman winner to pull out a couple of plays out of the bag to try and stay in it at the very least, right? Try and have a bit of a fight, and he didn't. It looked completely lost and completely deer in the headlight kind of Saturday for him, unfortunately. But
not a good day for him. But as you say, indicative of the Georgia being there, being battle hardened, know what to do on situations like that, know how to win those big games.
Yeah, I think it was just a master class, wasn't it? It's just here we come in town. Here you come to our town. Sit down and listen to us because this is how you play college football.
This is how college football was actually supposed to happen, rather than
Yeah, it was so dominant. It's very enjoyable to watch a team destroy another team like that. And it's not just physical, it's not just scheme. I think Georgia wanted it more. The meme of I took this personally kind of was going around because they were ranked number 3, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's
a bit of a chip on the shoulder. It was
it's the MJ game, isn't it? It's just like, you think you're better than me? I'm going to show you exactly what better means exactly. And what a game though. It was a good game. It teaches you a lot about everything. I think Georgia's going to be number 1 no matter what happens. Even if they lose the SEC championship, I think they'll still be in the playoff because that win was so dominant and so
I think the body of work that they've done up to this point is enough to give them and keep them in the playoff, even if, as you say, they don't win their conferences. They just can't not be.
Yeah. And what do you make of Tennessee not being able to stop Georgia? I think it's Georgia, right? And I think Stetson Bennett had maybe the best game of his career. He played absolutely lights out. So I'm not too concerned about Tennessee's defense. That's not really the strong point. But
they just couldn't move the ball either, could they?
Yeah,
that was what was. I mean, as you say, Georgia's defense came to play, but you'd have thought the Tennessee team, they'd have worked a way of getting something moving, but the only garbage time sort of touchdown right at the end. It's like the game was done and dusted. Then they were just shut down, and it was either a rude awakening for the coaching staff and a rude awakening for some of the players. But maybe it wasn't a too big an occasion for them. Maybe that was it. I think maybe that, the build up, it was 1v3, it was the decider, etc., etc. I think maybe that's, as you say, what Georgia have been through and done that, whereas the Tennessee players just kind of spooked. But it was very, very strange to be so one-sided. I mean,
it was really strange to be so one-sided. It poses me a bit of concern if they do make the playoff, which we'll talk about rankings when we finish talking about week 10, which was amazing. But it's just, them playing Ohio State, I'm not even sure they could win a game like that. If they put a performance like that anyway, it's just...
I think that's the thing. If they play like that again in a big game, then it's not even going to be a close. It's not even going to be worth watching.
But my problem is
a one-off day.
My problem isn't that they played bad. The problem is that they didn't even play at all. They didn't show up, and that's worrying, because it's not like you're going out and you're getting beat by a good team because they're better than you.
You're getting beat by a good team, but you're not even trying. You're not even.
It looked like they weren't trying, which I'm sure isn't true, obviously. But it looked too easy for the Georgia defense at times. A bit concerning for Tennessee. We'll see if they can rebound this week and score another 500 million points or whatever.
And change it around. And I think the rest of their schedule is pretty favourable. I think
it is, but you never know.
Win out, but
you never know what a loss like that does to a team. Because when everything is riding high, it's all well and good to be happy, and it kind of masks some deficiencies and things you do that you're like, oh, we're winning, doesn't matter. And then an ugly loss like that, the plane back or the bus back, whatever they took home, must have been pretty grim. And this is when real character usually shows up, and you never know, you might crack open some wounds and some things that have already been boiling down, So we'll see. I think they'll rebound.
Maybe, as you say, winning has papered over some of those cracks that might not be right. And now that they've lost, maybe will they fall away? Or will they rebound?
I think
it's a big game for them this week, isn't it?
I think the biggest example of that is Russell Wilson. I know this isn't NCAA, but it's Russell Wilson in the NFL, right? He was winning in Seattle and everything was hunky-dory, and then you go to Denver and then you're losing, and it's like all of a sudden your character becomes a problem. He hasn't changed over the years, and all of a sudden it's a problem. That's what I mean. That this can happen really fast as well. So. Yeah, hopefully they'll be there. Shall we talk about the biggest game of the weekend? What a game that was.
What a game. What a game. 9v. I mean, it was always going to be a good game because of how close they were in the rankings at the time. But what a game at night.
Bama LSU, if people stayed up to watch that, I know I did.
Right to the depths. I mean,
right to the depth of it. What a game. I mean, kind of not expected LSU to be that good that fast, because they really struggled earlier in the season. But they really showed up, and Jaden Daniels, wow, might be one of those, one of the top prospects in a couple of years if he carries on playing like this. Quite not out of nowhere, because I knew they were a good team, and Brian Kelly's a good coach, but
take a little longer to kind of
a little longer to get everything in order, and at least this year being a building stone to recruit and then get better in the years to come. They just kind of battle with Alabama, and Alabama's defense is really the problem, I think. They're just not as good as... There are loads of mental errors, which is very uncharacteristic for a Saban team.
The roll tide defense has usually been the way that they've kind of got through and relied on, and they're just making, as you say, some of those sort of brain fade errors, and he's like, and it's
and it keeps happening. It's really, really weird, and they just put it all on Bryce Young's shoulders as well. It seems they don't have that kind of Najee Harris type of player which you rely on, that they had in the past, or Garrett Wilson, or all of these guys are just absolutely amazing. they don't seem to have a superstar apart from Bryce Young.
Yeah, which is a lot for one player to kind of carry, isn't it?
Yeah, because in the past, they obviously, Tua and Mac Jones and all that, they were good QBs, but they weren't superstar QBs. And they just relied on the playmaker on the outside or on the backfield. And they've kind of flipped it this year, it seems. They just haven't found this superstar wide receiver, superstar running back, and they rely on their superstar quarterback. But I think they tried a little too hard.
Yeah, and we're seeing in the NFL, as you mentioned, Russell Wilson, we're seeing that in Green Bay. You've got a superstar quarterback. If you don't have any weapons, it doesn't matter. It
doesn't really matter.
So I think it's harsh for them. But again, it's one of those. Is it enough to rule Alabama out of the race now or not?
I can't. It's very hard if you've been watching NCAA for a long time. It's very hard to put a fork in Alabama ever, because they've been so dominant for so long, right? You're just thinking they'll find a way to get better very soon, hopefully, and it's not too late, because that's the problem. Is it too late with 2 losses? But I still have the feeling, and we were talking about it off air before we came on, of all the teams that can compete at the very top, if they turn it on and if they correct the mistakes and they get it going, I think it's the only team that can beat Georgia. I genuinely think
they've got to play Georgia still, haven't they? I'm sure.
No, they haven't got him on the schedule. It's Ole Miss next week, and then 2 kind of easy game. But the problem is, unless LSU drops another game, they won't even get there, because LSU will get to the SEC championship against Georgia, which I don't think is going to go very well for them. It's they're getting a lot of credit to be still where they are in the rankings, but they also lost 2 games against clearly 2 very good teams in overtime by 1 and 1 point and a field goal. So it's not by 2 points basically.
Losses. It's not like big losses, and it'll take that big dent on your rankings or anything else.
And they're really not playing well, and which it's fair enough. You need to be downgraded in a ranking if you're not playing well, but I just can't help thinking, if they manage to just click it together for 1 game, they can probably beat anyone. So let's see what happens with Alabama.
They're not playing well, but as you say, they've only lost 2 games, but by like a point or not.
A point,
overtime. I missed 2 points, and a field goal. It's just like, it's not like by playing badly they're getting blown out. So they've got to have something there, and if they knock those mental errors off, or it just all clicks, then they could just literally take any team apart, couldn't they, when they get
I just keep seeing that Bryce Young play early on. He tried to Mahomes between 2 defenders, side arms throw. I think if he hits that and they score a touchdown there, they're not looking back, and I think they pick up, and the momentum is all with them, and they probably win that game fairly easy. But that pick in the end zone, they just kind of flipped the game on its head, and then they were really struggling. And LSU's punter is absolutely amazing.
He had a game, didn't he? Yeah. Some of those, he pinned them in some of them, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. They really hard uphill battle the whole game. I think that's why that loss really doesn't feel that bad for Bama to me anyway, because they had to put a long drive together to try and score, and they were in it the whole game. Again, they win if that 2-point conversion isn't happening. It's very, very small margin, and I know it's LSU. They should have beaten them because they were lower, but also I don't know.
Tigers are just streaky though, aren't they? You can't, they've been in and around as well, so they're not a bad team. They might have just been sort of low down on the rankings in comparison from other previous wins and losses.
I just think this might have been LSU's best possible game. Everything went right for them, and we're talking about an Alabama team that's really struggling and not playing very well. And so what happens when these two actually meet in the average zone? I think it's probably a 2-touchdown lead for Alabama.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that's not how the rankings work. It's what you do against Serbia. So,
and I think the team that suffered the most this weekend, or last weekend just gone, obviously, I think Clemson. They take a free fall down the rankings after getting absolutely handed.
Rightfully so, and we talked about it. We talked about it before in that preview we did. That the problem is that they don't have a quarterback, and
Yeah.
they're really struggling to put anything on offense. And they got absolutely manhandled by Notre Dame. That game was never close, and it shouldn't have been close if it was. Yeah, and Notre Dame again has lost against Cal and Stanford, which are not good teams at all.
Yeah,
and I think they're quite streaky as well. But it's a first-year head coach. They're trying to figure out who they are. Recruitment's probably not quite there yet, and I don't think they were planning on being competitive this year, but maybe a bit more than what they were. But winning against Clemson is obviously pretty good.
I think they're overproducing for the sort of position they're in. But you take it as you say in these games. You can never tell, but they're certainly higher up than I think everybody expected them to be. But this win was out the blue. I don't think anyone really called this one for them.
Yeah, and again, the Cal game was the first game of the season, so first year head coach, first game, all of that. Sometimes you blink and it's the other way around, right? So this the joy of football. It's really hard to analyze exactly why or how. There's so many variables at play that can impact a game one way or another. It's really hard to define what a team actually is. But I think for Clemson, they're going to miss the playoff because of that. Because again, they no-showed a little bit like Tennessee, except they weren't playing Georgia. They were playing Notre Dame. They should have, even not showing on that day, the game should have been close. You lose by a point, and it's like, oh, okay, it happened.
Bad day at the office, whatever.
Yeah,
they didn't even get close to it. They didn't even really lay a glove on Notre Dame or whatever till late on. But even as you say, the game was done and dusted in the first half. It was just
pretty much, and there was no fight back either. They didn't. You're ranked number 4 and you go to the locker room. Surely somebody lights a fire.
Somebody lights a fire and shouts and screams or kicks something.
Somebody go out there and proves why we want to be number 4. And I just don't think they've got it in them. That's the problem with the ACC, right? It's the American Conference. It's too weak to give them any kind of flowers. If they tumble, they tumble.
They go a long way down, don't they?
Absolutely. So kudos for FSU to beat Florida. That's a very good game.
It wasn't even close. That was just a blowout. It was not beat them. It was a hand beat down on them. It was fantastic to watch the scores just racking up. But it was, as we mentioned, we thought it was going to be a good game, but it was a great game for me, but it wasn't a good game because it was so one-sided. And we're back. We're back in the top 25. And we moved up.
It's just it makes you wonder, right? It's like, what happened? Maybe some things go the right way to you earlier in the season, and you get. We started off really well,
we beat LSU. We kind of surprised a few people early on, and it was like the the 3 run where we, Wake Forest. I can't remember. There was 3 of them that were tough teams that we ended up. If we'd have gone 1 and 2 in that sort of section, I think we'd have been higher up. But unfortunately, we went 0 and 3, and it just tumbled out of the rankings completely. But it's coming together. And it's getting on the way back up. So, hopefully, we're now bowl contenders of some description or other, as we mentioned last week. So we will have at least something towards the end of the game. I think we should be fine. We've got 1 tough game, I think, still to go.
Yeah, you're bowl eligible now. So that, I think a successful season it's just Spencer Rattler, isn't it? It's just like, yeah. Yeah,
exactly.
Good or terrible, very good or terrible.
Very, very good, brilliant, amazing, but I mean, we're making. I don't know. I think we're number 1 in chunk plays. I think we're like over 20-yard plays. We're like smashing them out the park. So it's like, as you say, it's either really, really good.
Or really, really bad. Yeah.
Really bad. It would be nice to let's squeeze that together and have some sort of middle ground
into the average mode, so you can be good all the time. Yeah, that's good for your team. I'm happy to see that. I mean, Bo Nix, right?
Right, you guys are flying. Come on, it's on there. Who are you already eyeing up? Who you're hitting in the semi-final yet, or are you thinking?
So I was listening to the Verbal. I can't remember the name of the podcast now. Social Verbal. Dan is an Oregon fan. He was saying, I don't think we should be in a playoff because we're going to get blown out. Because we'll probably, if we do end up playoff, we'll be fourth, I would imagine. With one loss,
Georgia.
Which is Georgia. Do you really want to go and get blown off 49-3 again? And I'm sure it'll be closer, but I don't think our defense can stop their offense. Because that's the biggest problem we have. Is our defense is not good enough. And
at that level, at least, anyway.
Yeah. And then our offense will just probably score some points, but are they ready to compete with the likes of Georgia's defense? Not quite. No, yeah, I think. And yeah, they're playing really well. I mean, you don't score 49 points a game if you're not. I don't care who you're playing, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I just same again. First year head coach, first year QB, first year program. It's definitely looking good, and I'm happy that Dan Lanning is with us, and the future's bright. Do I want us to be in a playoff and get blown out? I'd rather go and play the Rose Bowl or the Cotton Bowl.
You'd rather finish sort of like 5th or 6th in the ranking.
Yeah,
go do that big bowl.
Go and do that. Go and play maybe Alabama, maybe Tennessee, and try and compete against these guys, because I think that'll be a better game to start with. And if we can win that, it's better on the resume than getting exploded in the playoffs.
Yeah, because everyone forgets that if you get to the playoffs, you get in your top 4. If you lose that one game, and
that's it.
That's it. It's done. You know, that's what people remember. They don't remember the great season to get there, and they don't remember you started, it's your first year and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you were to take your first year, go to a bowl, win the bowl, or really competitive sort of the big bowl, because it's not quite the top table but just under, that might suit the progression of the team better rather than
exactly. It's just like it makes recruiting easier. It makes you're a successful program rather than being the team that got blown out twice by Georgia. The narrative is important, I think, and again, because if it was Cristobal from last year and we've been like year 3 or 4 of the same program, and you want to see growth, then go for the playoffs and try, and because who knows what's going to happen, right? It's a game of football. You could win 9-6.
You could go there, the revenge, trying to get sort of payback.
Yeah, and things could fall your way, and you get a couple of big 6, and you never know. You can win the game, absolutely. I think for the program itself and for the score, I think it would be better to go and try and rub yourself against TCU, Tennessee, Alabama, LSU, whoever finishes in that range of 5, 6, 7, depending on where we go. But we still got to go and beat Utah, which is not easy to do, and
Utah
we'll try and win the Pac-12.
Could ruin that. Yeah, Utah could ruin the Pac-12 as it currently stands at the moment as well, couldn't they?
Yeah, and then you have to just try and probably beat USC in the Pac-12 championship, which is that's quite a big hurdle. But if we can do that, beat Utah, beat USC, win the Pac-12, and then get to whatever bowl we get to and win that, amazing season.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just gonna keep mentioning Bo Nix for Heisman, because what a game he's had the game. Another, what was it, 3 touchdown passing and 1 reception touchdown.
He's got to start getting into the conversation. I mean,
especially with everybody else dropping, right? I think Haddon Hooker's not in the conversation anymore. Jalen Hyatt certainly isn't either. And so who is it? Bryce Young? He didn't play particularly that well. He tried, but didn't really. Blake Corum, Michigan, obviously had a big game, but it was easy. So, yeah, I think he'll get some votes. He'll get up there. We'll see. Right, so let's shall we talk rankings?
Yeah, let's talk the rankings. The rankings got released. Happy with them?
I actually predicted the top 5, which is I'm quite proud of myself. It was my opinion, because that's what
the rankings are anyway.
That's what the rankings are, yeah, absolutely. But I seem to be aligning with with the committee. So yeah, we got Georgia number 1, obviously. Got Ohio State. So we didn't talk Ohio State game, actually. I think it was quite interesting. They really struggled to beat who were they playing? Who were they playing? Northwestern, which was terrible. And I said, don't watch that game. It's going to be a blowout. And it was 7-7 at halftime or something like that. But
yeah, we're not talking about what games we called and what games we didn't.
Yeah, no, but to be fair, there was 50 miles per hour wind, so which was going one way down the field. So basically, if you were against it, you couldn't throw the ball at all. It was just impossible to throw the ball. So you basically had two quarters to try and score points. And to be fair to them, they got it together in the end and won fairly comfortably. It was just one of those games where, the elements are so crazy.
Yeah.
CJ Stroud was just basically, you could have put anyone back there because it doesn't matter. You just can't throw the ball.
Yeah, you just use the handoff and sweeps, and that's all you've got, really.
Yeah, try. Like, everybody knows you're going to run the ball going up against it. So, and to the credit of Northwestern, they played really well for about 2/3 of the game, 3/4 of the game, and then it was just too much for them. Ohio State at 2. Do you have a problem with that? I think it's fair.
I think they're always going to be there and thereabouts. They're unbeaten. They've got to be in there. You could flip-flop Ohio State and Michigan. I think 2-3, 3-2 doesn't really. There's not much difference between the two of them. I don't think.
No, that's true. That's very true. I think Ohio State at 2, it makes more sense. If there was an Ohio State Michigan, which there will be for the Big Ten championship, I would give it to Ohio State. I think they're a more complete team. They've got a better quarterback. They've got a better defense. So Michigan at 3. I think it's pretty simple. The top 4 is pretty simple, right? You got 4 undefeated teams, so you just put those 4 in the top 4, I guess.
Well, those 4 depends on where they are, but so Georgia are a little bit a step above all the other 3.
Yeah. So I think the debate starts at 4 TCU, 5 Tennessee. Do you have a problem with that? I personally, I don't. I think TCU deserves to be there because they haven't lost a game.
It's that tricky one, isn't it? They haven't lost a game, but their conference isn't as strong. So is the fact that they're unbeaten masking the fact that they're not as strong as Tennessee? Tennessee just lost, but they only dropped 4. They didn't go too far down the rankings because they lost to Georgia, and it's like, it's an interesting one. I think you can make the case that Tennessee could have just about kept 4th. But TCU are unbeaten, so that probably just gives them a little added advantage. But they've got a big game coming up this week as well. So being unbeaten, you've got to get some kudos for that, even if you're being unbeaten.
Absolutely,
and which are slightly weaker.
They have beaten teams that have been ranked at the time, and Baylor and that kind of thing. There's a few Big Ten teams that are still ranked. Texas, Kansas State, all that. They've beaten everybody. I think the problem with TCU is that they always make it look difficult. It's always a fourth quarter comeback. It's always
it's by 6. It's not like by 15
it's never easy. So I don't have a problem having number 4 now because it's week 11, and again, all these rankings doesn't matter until after the championship weekend. So we'll see what they do this week. We'll talk about it in a bit, but I think it's very important who they play next, and obviously the Big Ten championship is going to be very important to see if they can stay 4th. I don't think they'll crack top 3. That's the thing, right? Even if they win out, and Michigan drops a game, it's just going to be very difficult to get them higher than 4. So it's just whether they'll be able to stay in the 4, drop to 5, and then miss out on a playoff spot. I think that's one of the reasons the expansion kind of makes sense, because 4-5 is so close, isn't it?
So
I'm just thinking
5 it could be either. You're just a flip of a coin or an opinion, or when you weigh up a loss against this.
Yeah, when we'll go to 12, 12, 13 will be close as well. But I think there'll be less, because number 12 is probably never going to win the championship unless crazy thing happens, obviously. But there's less. It's less risks, right? So that's top 4, 5 Tennessee. I think that's fair.
Didn't show, as you just said, they didn't show up, but I think they've shown up to the previous game that they should be in the hunt and in the discussion. Your Ducks sitting there at 6.
Happy with that. I think that's good. I think it shows the committee is really looking at that first game. As I said, Georgia being so far ahead everybody, it's almost like it's a wash, and you play Georgia, you're gonna lose. but the body of work that come after scoring 45
Yeah.
points per game, and Boning's playing the way he plays, I think, and they're getting better and better. I think that's the thing. So we, I'm happy
And
with
as you say,
6.
I think that loss against Georgia starts to not pale in comparison, but it starts to be less weighted against them as well.
Yeah.
As they realise actually Georgia are really that good, and I'll just be maybe them losing in the first game of the first year, blah blah. Maybe it wasn't score. You shouldn't score so negatively against how people are looking at the Ducks. LSU made a bit of a jump.
Yeah. That's. I was going to say the problem is they lost so badly, 49.
It was a big loss.
It was a big loss. So LSU 7. I don't know about that one. I think that's a big jump from 10 to 7. I know they won, but they won on the 2-point conversion in overtime. In a game again, as I said, they played probably their perfect game, and Alabama really wasn't playing really well.
Yeah.
I think that's.
Do you think they got? I wonder if they got an extra jump because they beat Alabama and it wasn't
at home. I don't know.
Is it extra because everyone expects Alabama to be better?
Yeah.
It's like, does that count more for LSU? I mean, I guess we'll see when they come up against Arkansas and see how they can progress.
They fare against. The problem is the schedule is pretty easy for the rest of the way, so they'll probably, if everything wins out, LSU and Alabama, they'll probably end up relatively in the same order, and it's just it'll be an LSU.
You may end up getting a 2-loss team winning one of their conferences, I think, wouldn't you?
Yeah. So you're gonna have an LSU Georgia SEC championship, and then see what happens, right? In Atlanta, it'll be. I mean, I don't have a problem. They did beat them, but they also lost to Florida State, and I can't remember who else they lost in the beginning of the season. I'm just saying, you're right.
We're ranked 23rd.
You're ranked 23rd, and so that's kind of a bad loss on a resume. At a team that was kind of looking really bad back then, and kind of like looking at themselves and not being quite where they wanted to be yet, and you go out and you get basically blown out by them. I think there's a bit of recency bias having them at 7, but again, it doesn't really matter. We'll see where they end up in a couple of weeks. USC
at 8.
USC, same
UCLA,
again.
I think same kind of could have been, I think, closer. I think the USC UCLA being 4 points lower, is that fair?
I think UCLA really didn't show up against Oregon. They got beat pretty bad on that day, and I think that loss is really against them at the moment.
That's true.
So I don't know. I think USC is probably the better team. They have to play each other, so we'll see. We'll see what happens when that happens. Again, I think it makes sense to have him here. I would have probably flip-flopped USC Alabama, because I always look, if USC were to play Alabama today, who would probably win that game? I think my money would probably be on Alabama.
Still be on Alabama.
So I would have put that the other way around. But big drop by Alabama at 9. They're a two-loss team, isn't it? Yeah. Well, 2-loss team still in the top 10. So it's LSU and Alabama, and that's my problem. Alabama losses aren't as bad as LSU losses. So I would have, you
would have almost put Alabama
and
over
then LSU.
But
even though
LSU
they
just
them.
beat Alabama. It's one of those tricky ones.
It's very
the losses
tricky.
The losses that LSU have had are worse losses than the two that so. But then Clemson took a complete nosedive, didn't they?
Clemson took the 10th now, and they'll probably stay right around there, I would imagine, unless the wheel comes off, and even if they win out, I think they'll probably end up 10-11. I think they could even drop lower if Ole Miss, but if it's a close game against Bama, I could say Ole Miss going up a spot or 2. Could see Penn State going up a spot or 2. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
This could be, Clemson aren't in the mix anymore after that. I think they started off really well, but I think that loss has kind of opened up their eyes, and I think that's them done.
Well, that's their season. They'll probably win the ACC, and they'll probably get to a bowl as well, a good one. But I think for them, for now, it's going to be recruiting and finding a better quarterback, because DJU is not the answer, I think, and they benched him at halftime, whatever. So I think they're struggling on that department. Trevor Lawrence is nothing
Big
but a
shoes to
ghost
fill.
now.
He's
Big
gone
shoes
now.
to fill. Yeah, very big shoes. All right. Shall we talk what to watch this weekend?
Let's see if we can do any better this time around.
Yeah, I would keep an eye. So 5:00, I would definitely keep an eye on that Missouri-Tennessee game. See what Tennessee has to offer after that bad loss. Missouri did clip Georgia for a while, a couple of weeks back. It was a very close game until Georgia pulled ahead. Yeah, so that'll be an interesting game. LSU as well, Arkansas. Not an easy place to go and play, even though Arkansas is really not that very good.
But there's a bit of rivalry there as well, isn't there?
Yeah,
so
there is.
So that could be a streaky one.
I mean, it's only it's a 3-point, according to the spread. It's a 3.5 points, so it could be very close. It could be it could be damning if they were to lose the LSU. I think would probably come out of the top 10 again. With 3 losses.
Even if even if they were to win it, but only to win it by the 3-point spread. Even that wouldn't. They wouldn't go up in the rankings, I would imagine.
No, I don't think they would. I think they're probably damned to be where they are unless they can beat Georgia in the SEC championship.
Yeah.
So they would have to win out basically to maybe scrape a spot or two. I don't see anything else at 5:00. Do you?
Nothing else is standing out. There's nothing close. There's no.
No, I mean Oklahoma, West Virginia might be a good game, but at this time of the season now, you want to watch a team that will make bowls, will make playoff contention, I guess. So it comes to 8:00, 7:00. Bama Ole Miss.
Bama Ole Miss is the only game that kind of draws your eye, doesn't it? It's 9-11. Team just coming off a very close loss.
Very close loss, and needing to win and needing to prove that they're still the team we think they are. I think the way they're going to win that game is very important to Alabama. They're going to have to stomp on Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is very unlucky to be sitting in those shoes.
This week.
Yeah. I think Saban has probably had a few words that I'm glad I'm not in that locker room right now and hearing what has to say about that. UCF Tulane, very interesting, very two good team on the rise. But don't 8:00. Just watch Bama Ole Miss. I think you'll have a good time. And then later on, if you're still up, and Washington Oregon is a good game.
Oregon, that shouldn't be a bad game.
Yeah, it should be a good game, but it's in Eugene. I think we've won 23 games in a row at home.
Yeah, at home, you're unstoppable, aren't you? You've got
so I don't think Washington is good, but I don't think this is going to be close. It shouldn't be. If we want to pretend to even scratch the top 4, this game shouldn't be close. To me, anyway.
This should be another one of you guys put up 49 of your.
We should put another 50 points, absolutely. So I think the late game.
Eyes are drawn to the TCU game. I think for me, that might be a tester for TCU. I think Texas are favourites for it as well.
Oh, are they now? Wow,
that's. I think
it's at home. Yeah.
I think they're.
They are actually, by a touchdown. Crazy disrespect.
That's bizarre when you look at they're 4. TCU are unbeaten.
Yeah,
it's like that seems a bit harsh on TCU, but
it really is. Yeah, but it's again, it's the Big 10. It's the Big 12. Sorry, that's where it is. It's all very very close, and the Texas offense is very good, very good. Bijan Robinson and Quinn Ewers. My bad. Very good game. I think that's going to be an explosive game, and I think it's one of those that TCU is not going to be able to just rely on the comeback this time. They're going to have to play the full game.
Full game rather than that last sort of second half.
Last ditch effort and hang around and stuff. Because Texas could have definitely beat Bama with Quinn Ewers, so he got injured.
It'd be interesting, and if Texas do turn them over there, then you've got to think that TCU's position in that upper echelon of the rankings is not going to be lasting very long at all, will it?
No, and
they'll tumble.
It could be a big drop if they were to lose, especially if they lose badly, obviously. But I think even losing by a narrow margin, they'll probably drop out top 6 and probably end up around where LSU is at 7,
LSU,
6, 7, and
yeah,
then
7, 8.
I think Tennessee and Oregon will be 4, 5. Depending how they win. I mean, again, if Tennessee comes out and does another 500 yards game and 50 points and so many touchdowns, I think they'll just probably bump back up. But they might struggle, and then Oregon could lift them if they win. If they win big. Interesting week. I think that's about it, really.
Really, it's pretty much it's that bounce back sort of some of those games, isn't it? It's the bounce back games that they're drawing the eye, which will be interesting to follow. So
yeah, and then there's always the 4 a.m. Hawaii game if you want.
If you're really hardcore, if you haven't got a late Sunday NFL game to stay up for or get up for on Monday morning, then stay up for the late Hawaii game on Sunday.
Hawaii,
I might be up because I think I'm trying to work out the timelines because obviously from other sporting events, there's loads of other stuff going on. So England are in the World Cup final.
Oh yeah, the World Cup is.
Yeah, so there's the Cricket World Cup final, and then there's the England Women's Rugby World Cup final, which is really early Saturday morning. So it's all crazy this weekend. So if you wanted to do late night, early morning, then it's available. I've got, I think, Saturday morning is like 5 a.m. for the England, the rugby, early morning for Sunday, and then obviously early morning for us Monday for Niners. So,
yeah, the Niners are playing half one. Yeah, half one Sunday morning. Well, Monday morning.
Monday night. I love the way everyone's going. It's Sunday night football, and we're all like,
no, it's Monday morning.
Call it what it is.
Yeah,
Nadgy, man, it's been fun. Appreciate you.
Yeah, it is fun. It's fun talking college ball and rankings and all that. Thanks for having me again.
Good stuff. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll catch up next week. Until then, Let's Talk Sports fans. Thanks for watching.
See you later.